Dear student, today we are going to discuss about English literature. When we talk about English literature is written in various continents, in various countries. It is used to say that the most literature is written in English. Though the English literature doesn't have the long history, but in number, we can say that English literature is ahead of all other literature. So when we talk about English literature, we have to consider that English literature can be categorized in different ways, like Indian English literature, American English literature, African English literature, Commonwealth English literature. But when we talk about the English literature, we have to go to its origin, that is the British English literature. So today, we are going to discuss about British English literature. When we talk about the British English literature, before we start with that, first we try to understand really what is meant by literature. Is literature defined in a specific way? Is it possible to make the point clear what is meant by literature? Whenever we talk about that, what is literature? Literature is any collection of written work, specifically considered to be an art form, especially prose, fiction, drama, and poetry. It is one of the fine arts like painting, dance, music, which provides aesthetic pleasure to the reader. Literature, as an art form, can also include works in various non-fiction genres such as biography, diaries, memoir, letters, and essays. Within its broad definition, literature includes non-fictional books, articles, or other written information on a particular subject. Do you know, my students, how this word is termed? The word literature is a modified form of a Latin word, that is literaria, literatura, or literatus. That means writing form with letters. That's why literature refers to written works of imaginative, artistic, or intellectual value, typically categorized by the use of language to convey ideas, emotions, and experiences. It encompasses various forms of written expression such as novels, poems, plays, essays, short stories, and other literary works. So, when we talk about literature and when we talk about the various forms of literature like prose, poetry, and drama, we find that there is the reflection of the society in the literature. Because character belongs to the society, they come from the society. Setting is also be there in the society. Events and the theme is taken from the whatever happens in the society. Is there any link of literature with society? If it is a link, then what type of the link the literature and society having? Literature is an integral part of any society and has a profound effect on ways and thinking of people of that society. Actually, society is the only subject matter of literature. Literature literally shapes a society and its beliefs. Literature literally does the representation of society, and therefore, remember, my student, that we call literature as the mirror of the society. Whatever happens in the society, that happens that presented in the literature, and whatever is represented in literature, that you can find in the society. It is, we can say that literature and society are the two sides of the same coin. If we can see the things in the literature, the same thing can be you have observed in the society, or whatever happened in the society is represented in the literature. It is like that, but we cannot say that what happens first in the society and then reflected in the literature, or it comes in the literature and that we can observe in the society. What will happen first we cannot say, but we can say that whatever happens in the literature and whatever happens in the society can have the reflection in both the ways. Writers use it effectively to point out the ill aspects of society that improve them. They also use it to highlight the positive aspects of a society to promote more goodwill in society. The effects of literature on a society can be both positive and negative. Because of this, the famous philosopher Aristotle and Plato have different opinions about its effect on society. Plato was the one who started the idea of written dialogue. He was a moralist and he did not approve of poetry because he deemed it immoral. He considered poetry as based on false ideas, whereas basis of philosophy came from reality and truth. According to him, poetry should be censored from adults and children for fear of lasting detrimental consequences. So Plato does not allow the literature in his ideal state, whereas his student Aristotle considers literature of all kinds to be an important part of children's upbringing. Aristotle claims that poetry takes us closer to reality. See that this teacher and student, both of them having the different views about the literature. In those days, literature means only poetry. Because as we know that when we go through the history of genres of literature, we found that poetry was the first genre which developed as literature, then drama, and then prose. So Aristotle and Plato, when they talk about the poetry, it means that they talk about the literature. So Plato was of the opinion that poetry takes us far away from reality, whereas his own student Aristotle claims that poetry takes us closer to reality. He also mentioned in his writing that it teaches, warns, and shows us the consequences of bad deeds. He was of the view that it is not necessary that poetry will arouse negative feelings. So, what can we say that then? What is literature? How can we define the literature? How can we understand that this piece of writing can be called a literature? Because nowadays you can come to such type of the things in your life that even though if you purchase any gadget like mobile phone or computer, with that gadget you have received one piece of writing which is known as also the literature. Then when we talk about the literature, in whenever we have the prose, poetry and the drama, then that literature, how can we identify? So it is a very simple that literature is mirror of the society. Total experience shape into beauty and attractiveness. Any artwork which uses language can be called literature. Piece of writing that is valued as a work of art, especially novel, play and poetry, can be called literature. Written or oral composition that tells stories, dramatic situations, and expresses emotions and analyzes and advocates ideas can be called a literature. Creative and imaginative writing, which is designed to engage readers emotionally and intellectually through the major literary genres such as novels, drama, and poetry, and other subgenres like fable, parable, and short stories can be called a literature. Reflection of social, political, economic, and cultural realities in writing form can be called a literature. Literature is a part and parcel of man's self-realization and a symbol of man's success and failure. Art that uses language creatively to portray social and personal experience. So, dear student, today we talk about what is literature. I hope that you understand this concept, what is literature. It is really difficult to put the concept of literature in words, but we have to try because abstract things, when get into the concrete way, we can understand the concept very well. And for that sake, we try to define what is literature in specific way. Hope you understood. And next lecture will be on literature and history.